So, ladies and gentlemen, you all recognize who the person is, Dr. David Suzuki. While we contemplate on his speech, I'll ask you, did Dr. Suzuki answer the question? The AW assignment number 1, he did, right? Was there any fragmentation? Was he speaking science? Yes, he was speaking science. Was he speaking philosophy? Yes, he's speaking philosophy. Was he talking Buddhism? He is, in a way, talking Buddhism. So, our AW icon, Buddhism equals philosophy equals science. Was he lecturing as a scientist? Yes and no.
Yes.
Was he lecturing as a philosopher?
Yes.
Yeah, of course. Was he lecturing as a spiritualist?
Yes.
Yeah. He said, we need spiritual places, and that should be the foundation of the human existence. Right? Science equals philosophy equals religion. So how do you label him? The way he was standing there preaching, does he look like a preacher? No. Does he look like a scientist? Not really. Does he look like anything? Does he look like a Buddha?
No.
Okay, good. This is the barrier that AW try to break down, try to open, try to inclusive. Right? Was there any fragmentation in terms of different areas of his view? There's no fragmentation. To him, it's very eloquent, putting the scientific fact to support his philosophical viewpoint in order to advance a spiritual agenda. For what? For the benefit of human. And this benefit of human, people without this kind of open heart and open mind can never appreciate. They will think what you're doing is useless, it's valueless, it's meaningless, it's not making money for me, it's not making my family grow and richer. So, it took a brilliant person like Dr. Suzuki to explain that value system to the uninitiated mass in a form acceptable to all, bringing down the religious barriers, the fragmentation of disciplines, and using science as a support. That is AWE. This is a highlight of curriculum. This is great. This is wonderful. He captured the whole thing in one breath. Okay, so let's do the PowerPoint then. So we all remember this now. So that's the Dalai Lama. So we began our course with this line. And if you don't remember this line, well, maybe the next slide will help you. Take care of your pennies because they'll become nickels. Take care of your nickels, they'll become dimes. Take care of your dimes, they will become quarters. And take care of your quarters, they will become dollar. And take care of your dollar because it will form your future. And these are words of wisdom by, if you click please, by the Dalai Lama. Dalai Lama. So hopefully that will make an impression. We started with what religion expects, the Dalai Lama's teaching, then holistic health and speed learning, which is really critical. And along the way we had breath, teaching, exercise, and now a wonderful closure by Dr. Suzuki's speech about what all that breathing is all about. Okay, so that is the macro view and the Mahayana view. That is what Mahayana Buddhism is all about. All the Zen school teaches about breathing, meditation, blah, 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 blah. It took Dr. Suzuki to put it all into perspective. If we do not arrive at Dr. Suzuki's final destination, all that so-called meditative Buddhism teaching has not reached its goal yet. That is why AWE is in existence. It's a quick shortcut right away to the destiny. So we can see what the final destination is all about. And we will not be detouring, searching around. We'll have a clear roadmap laid out for us. Okay, so next slide. Yeah, we've gone through the thinking boxes. And next slide. And we found that actually, the larger the thinking box, the smaller the ego. So the two are the two most important determinants towards enlightenment. We summarize the two relationships on this graph. The higher the ego, the more narrow is our mind. The smaller the ego to the left-hand side, the more open is our mind. So the two determinants are closely interconnected. Therefore, we spend 3 or 4 lectures opening our mind, and we spend equal number of lectures on diminishing our ego. So now we keep already review some of the ego part. First, we have to define ego, and by defining ego, we use some of the definitions from the philosophers like Descartes and some of the scientists like Albert Einstein, in order to explain what Buddhism talk about forget our ego or diminish ourselves. This is why it's an equal sign there again, because we're using definitions from the philosopher and from the scientist. Albert Einstein, ego is an optical illusion of consciousness. That is exactly what the Diamond Sutra says. All the phenomenologies are like morning dews, like dreams, like a thunder, like a lightning. So it's just an optical illusion. And then Descartes and Jean-Paul Sartre and so on. So these people, they're talking Zen, they're talking Buddhism. So first we define what ego is, because in speed learning, the first thing is definition. Next. Then we keep defining ego. Identification with forms. Ego is an identification with forms. Next please. And because of this ego, we think we are on top. But if we open our mind, like what Dr. Suzuki talked about, the interconnectivity of all animal and plant kingdom, then we have an ecological view. The whole world is one big ecosystem. Then we will not place ourselves on top. Then the men and the women, they are just integrated into them. So with ego on the left, we think we're entitled to eat everything. Especially the Chinese, they eat everything. But on the right-hand side, when we have that ecological view, we might choose to become a vegetarian. And that's what Buddhism and a lot of other religions, like a lot of Hindus are strict vegetarians, especially in Jainism. The Jains are strict vegetarians, right? Because they have a very strong eco view. So this ego, which is we look at the bottom line, the unawareness or forgetfulness is the original sin. The original sin has spelled out helplessness. The next line remind us there's no Calvinism. Anyway, that is the original sin. It's the ego. This is an illusionary sense of identity. Next one, please. Our next section. First, we define what ego is. Then the next section is we look at why ego is so intensive, so powerful, and so fierce, and so difficult to control or deflate. Right? Dr. Chen spent a lot of time talking about the evolution of self. I just want to capture his main points here. Why is it so difficult to defeat this ego? Next slide. Calvinism. Ego, which is the original sin, give us a total inability or total depravity for the love of God and service to humanity. We are born with this egotistic self which keeps on growing and growing into a bigger and bigger and bigger, the inflated ego, and that completely blinds us from, we become morally unable to choose to follow the religious teachings, and therefore we will not be saved. We are unwilling to do so out of the necessity of our own nature. What is the necessity of our own nature? It's the ego. That is why it's the original sin. So here we understand why ego is so strong. Because we're born with this, and then we inflate it as we grow up. Here is the formation of ego. It starts taking shape or form. And here, when Dr. Chen talked about the evolution of the ego, we go back to the very primitive living organisms, like the bacteria, which is the green arrow is pointing to the colonies of bacteria. And the penicillin mold is a mold which is in the middle of the petri dish. That penicillin is shooting out an antibiotic called penicillin to kill off the other bacteria. Its own survival. I, me, ego needs to survive at the expense of the death of all other life forms. So that is how ancient this urge of self-preservation is. Imagine millions of years of evolution of the ego, and we try to overcome it in one lifetime, in 4 years. This is a very difficult journey, but it's not impossible. You look at Dr. David Suzuki, the way he talked. There's no, from the beginning to the end of his talk, there's not a single word I there. He never talked about himself, how he felt. There is no I in his whole speech. It's all science, it's all religion, it's all philosophical. Then, from the single-celled primitive organism, we move to the single-cell protozoan, like an amoeba, which is single-cell, and it's doing the same thing. That, on the left-hand side, is eating what we call a diatom, which is a photosynthetic microbe. So again, it's one microbe eating another microbe. See? So the one on the left, the amoeba is eating the diatom. On the right-hand side, the green picture, the same amoeba are eating up bacteria. That is a bacteria, and after it ingested, that has become inside the cell of the amoeba. And it's eating algae. It eats everything. So the food chain becomes, right? There's no echo here for the amoeba. The amoeba eats everything. It eats a photosynthetic little plant, it eats other bacteria, and it eats algae, which is a higher form of photosynthetic single-cell organism. After it ate it, it forms this food vacuum inside it. So even single-celled organisms are evolving for self. So this is where the selfishness comes from. And the food chain evolved even at the microscope. Millions of years ago. up to now, today. So that's why it's so hard to overcome the ego. It's easy to open our mind, but it's very difficult to diminish our ego. Our minds are formed mostly in this lifetime. Our mind, not our soul. I'm not talking about our soul. Our soul could carry previous life's karma, but our mind is just this lifetime. So we can quickly open our mind. But this ego thing is difficult. It carries millions of years of evolutionary karma with us. So, next slide please. So that is why, like the amoeba, these two are, this is Mr. Amoeba, Mrs. Amoeba. If there's a bacteria, right away it eats it. It sees an algae, it eats it. So the food is a stimulus, the response is to eat it. And the amoeba don't care, it just grows bigger and bigger and then split into two, right? So Mrs. Amoeba is saying, stimulus, response, don't you ever think? No, right? The amoeba never think. It just stimulus, response. It just reacts. Same thing. This food chain keeps on even throughout the dinosaur age. It's just me, I need to survive, I will kill to survive. So this is the cycle of suffering. In the life of the self, or the I, or the egotistic self, it's an endless cycle of suffering because of the survival instinct. We're not judging, right? We're just aware of this phenomenon. We're not saying it's good or bad, we're just saying that's life. Life is a serious, endless cycle of suffering, self-preservation. At the expense of the death. Life is at the expense of death. So that this is life, supported by the expense of the death of whatever food chain is underneath. And that is necessary. And this is unnecessary. So, we become more and more aware. It is not necessary when someone gets a great big promotion, is now rich. Okay, on my birthday, I'm going to throw a big party, we're going to have shark's fin, we're going to have this, and we're going to have that, a big banquet, 20, 30 tables. We don't feel it's necessary because we become aware. We've diminished our ego. For the ordinary, oh, it's my big birthday, I get a big promotion, I have the money, I have to enjoy life. This becomes their meaning of life. At AWE, redefine meaning of life. We redefine a whole lot of things based on an open mind and diminished ego. We don't think this is necessary. It's great, celebrate birthday, it's great, but not at the expense of this. And if you do, be aware. I'm not saying it's good or bad, just be aware. Because with that awareness, your value change. When your value change, you do things different. It's very natural and automatic. You're not forcing upon some value system over other people. So, when we look at the evolution of ego, with our awareness, this is natural. We just evolve from the bacteria, the prokaryotes to the eukaryotic cells, the more complex cells, and then into multicellular cells, and then more and more evolve, and then until we just keep on with the food chain. That becomes the value of our evolution. And we don't want that. That is for the unaware. Once we are aware, we have a different route. Up to a certain point, we think differently. We have a different value system. Yes, and that value system would give us spirituality and enlightenment. I deliberately put this because the Buddha is not what we think appears. That can be a Buddha. Or Suzuki could be a Buddha. Or at least a Bodhisattva. So, next slide please. That is why we pay so much attention into the evolution of the self and ego in order to know what we're facing against. We are looking at overcoming millions of years of evolution of the self. Next slide, please. So that was the macro view. Now we go to the micro view of just looking at a single person. Next slide, please. Dr. Chen took us through when we're at birth, we have very little ego. Next one, please. Then we can see that the child frequently refers to himself in the third person. You know, he always mentioned his name, not in the third person as well. Right? And then, next comes this. Child has tons of toys, but he loses one, he gets so upset even with so many other toys, because losing a toy means losing a part of himself. So he starts identifying his, these are all stimulus. Right? And those become his ego, and then his response is losing oneself. The ego is hurt. Next one. So identifying with toys, small car when you're young, and big car when you're older and richer. So it is primitive. This is immature to identify a value system. Just like the same boy identifying himself with that car. So if someone scratches this car, oh my God, the ego. Or the house, right? Or the mansion. Next please. So, identification of body, gender, sexual appearance, and so on and so forth. So, next slide please. And then eventually with money, fortune and fame, these are the characteristics of the ego once it's formed. Then, tends to equate having with being. Right? So we have those things. So we say, I'm sick. Or maybe your body is sick, but your mind could be very healthy. And your spirit could still be strong. So this is where we get confused. Okay, next. Ego always wanting to be right. So we go into recognizing what the characteristics of the egos are. Next one. Ego does not want peace. Ego loves complaining and resentment, to feel superior, to feel important, etc. So, parental role, that's important. This is very important in our daily life. So, right now, remember, we're doing a microscopic view of one individual now. Right? And this is where we always hear from our parents. That's why so many we call generation gap or rebellious child and so on and so forth. Because the parents don't disappoint me. I sacrifice so much for you. Parents knows bad. So don't fight them. It's their ego talking, not the true self. Or believe me, I know better. Why don't you believe me? These are all very egotistic statements. That's why in our breathing exercise, we try to just to be aware with no judgment. That we're trying to not have any ego interfering with our experience. So we're going to practice more and more and more daily. But first we must get a wise big picture. Then we go into the nitty-gritty of practicing the breathing using the Vijnana or small vehicle Zen method. We're not saying that is not good. We're saying you must have a big picture first before you practice the smaller puzzles. Next one. And ego leads to greed, fixed hostility, stubbornness, and so on. So this will be posted on our website when we go through it. But we just want to recapture some of the important things. Because Dr. Chen gave very detailed and very long lecture. We spent so much time because it took millions of years. Okay, next. And it can collectively can be wrong. Okay. So next one. Good. So inflation and defense of ego, we'll leave that till next time. All right. So any closing remark from the class? Well, if not, then thank you very much. Thank you.